Hello, and you are very welcome back to the Public Eye Business Podcast, brought to you by Granite Exchange. I'm your host, Sarah Travers, and throughout the series, I'm speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth, and find out how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for all new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. So today in the studio, I'm joined by David Maxwell, co-founder and COO of Further Space. David, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm very good, thank you, Sarah.
Lovely to see you. Before we begin, I'm going to introduce you to our listeners and a little bit of background to the company. So Further Space manufactures luxury glamping pods with a difference to Ireland and Scotland from its 20,000 square foot facility in Carryduff, County Down. Launched in 2017 and co-founded by David, Further Space already has, wait for it, 58 luxury glamping pods across the island, with a series of openings planned in Scotland and the Republic of Ireland this year. For families and travellers who love a little bit of adventure, Further Space pod holidays bring you to unique spaces in unexpected places. Further Space's vision is to go beyond the ordinary and let customers stay somewhere exclusive, cosy and stylish with nature on your doorstep. Can I go now, David, please? This all sounds absolutely lovely. What a vision. And definitely glamping and pods have, well, they've exploded. How did you come into this market?
Further Space started as a brand called Into Pod back in 2015. And we manufactured pods for the tourism industry. But we always had this ambition to create a recurring revenue stream from our kind of one-hit wonder, as we would call it. And I guess in the act of going out and selling our pod, we must have spoken to about 200 to 250 landowners. And we got some consistent feedback. There was a recognition of the market opportunity. There was a desire to have a high-end product, which is what we had. There was a lack of capital to do what they wanted to do, and planning restrictions in the areas that we want to operate for bricks and mortar buildings was a massive hurdle. Okay. So we pivoted around, it was around November 2016, and we got a couple of early adopters. Glenarm Castle, for example, was one of those early adopters.
Know it well, beautiful. And what they've done up there is incredible.
It is incredible. And we spoke with Adrian and we pulled together the bones of a kind of a revenue share model. And it's really designed to pull visitors to Glenarm. I mean, Glenarm used to be a place that you would have stopped on your way to the North Coast. And I truly believe that the collaboration with Glenarm Estate has really put Glenarm on the map from a tourist destination perspective.
I would agree.
And as a result, you mean both Glenarm Estate and the local council have invested in Glenarm as a village, and the customer proposition in that particular part of Northern Ireland is just incredible. So, I mean, some businesses need a bit of luck. I think that was our stroke of luck.
So was that one of that was the first. And that's what great looks like. I mean, it's every pod. Hard to top.
I mean, I guess when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a business, sometimes you just need that break. And actually the story behind Glenarm's incredible, because Adrian had a planning application, and the story he tells is it kind of started at one side of his desk and got closer to the bin and ended up in the bin. And then the next day our business reached out to him
just at the right time.
Just at the right time.
Oh, yeah. My goodness, I love that. Okay.
So that gave us the kind of the courage and the confidence to push forward with that type of model. And then we went out to market, and in November 17 we launched the brand Further Space. We stopped selling our pods and we just manufactured them exclusively for ourselves and our landowners. And then you fast forward to where we are today with 58 pods on the ground over 10 locations, and we're looking to triple that over the next 18 months.
Right, that's huge.
It is.
And huge growth. And again, you know, the stories that I hear from people sitting in the chair in front of me is always about that ability to pivot, that ability to go down a different path. You start with one idea, and the goal sometimes changes, but you just keep moving forward. How have you got to that level of growth and ambition?
I have a passion for business, and I think my purpose today is actually to make the people around me succeed. But that's a byproduct of kind of living in an SME world from when I was 19 years old. I had my first business when I was 25. We lost that at 2014. That really was a tough time, and then had to have the opportunity to do that again.
What happened with the first business?
Well, we were a manufacturing company, and a manufacturer or a client in London actually rescinded on a massive contract, and that pulled the business from underneath us.
So you were so young and you'd built something so incredible, but
And it was very
disaster struck, and I'm sure I can see the emotion. I can hear the emotion in your voice talking about it.
Well, I think it's important to give people context. I know one of the last questions here is what advice I would give to people who want to run a business, and you mean you can in my opinion, you can go through the academic route. You mean you can have all the experience in the world, but it's not until you make those mistakes and actually live it do you fully understand what you need to do in order to make things better in the future. And I do believe that that experience has really helped me navigate the pitfalls and the hurdles, and also celebrate the good times with Further Space. And even recently we're about to close out on a pretty big private equity round to fuel the next stage of our business. So life's a journey, business is a journey, and
but there are many recruiters, there are many companies out there now that will not employ you unless you've shown evidence of having failed, as you put it, quote unquote, that was actually, you have learned, you are more resilient than you would have been when you started out.
Absolutely, and the humility that comes off the back of that. In my opinion, business is all about people, and I'm there to facilitate those people. And I guess over the next 3 or 4 years, I would love to be in a position where it's the people around me that end up taking Further Space forward. And that gives me an opportunity maybe to take a back seat and help the next kind of cohort of entrepreneurs coming through Belfast.
So who do you run the business with?
So our senior management team is Alison Irvine, our CFO, and Claire Rutherford, who's our marketing director. And then we've got a team of 10. Customer services, reservations. We've got our own in-house architects. We've got a pretty big finance team because our business is a marketing business as well as a finance business, because we're sharing revenues with landowners on a monthly basis. And then we've got a business development team. We've Naomi based in Scotland, and we've Simon based here in Belfast. So we do quite a lot with a small team, and we're kind of starting our lean journey, trying to look at the business, look at where the waste is, and try to remove the waste in order to create a bit more time to do the things that are important.
You've done an awful lot personally in development and as a business owner and leader to get you to this point where you know what needs to be done. Do you still have the fear around it not working out like the last time?
I don't have a fear. There's always a level of anxiety at times. There are, you do have mirror moments, like we're all human at the end of the day. What the last 12 to 18 months has given me are the tools to be able to deal with the tough times. Business is not linear. But by having a great group of people around you you trust, like our whole business is based on a foundation of trust, having open and honest conversations with people, facing into the problems, as well as celebrating the wins at the same time. That's what time gives you. So I wouldn't have a fear, because I know in my heart, and I know the team around me are doing their best. And for whatever reason, if it doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to turn out, one door closes and another 3 or 4 opportunities open in front of you, Sarah.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? And the opportunities are still out there to grow. So go back to Glenarm and that first big break, as you like, when everything aligned and it was such a success. Where did you go next?
So at that stage, we had an influx of applications, interest. I remember in the early days, we took a room in a hotel in Coleraine, and we had Causeway Coast and Glens send out a little advertisement on their e-zine to their constituents. And I thought we'd maybe have a dozen people turn up. And we filled the room with about 30 or 40 landowners.
Is that right?
Yeah, and a lot of them were next door neighbours to each other. And then we found Rachel and Seamus in Ballycastle. And I mean, the story behind that particular partnership's incredible. That site's called Black Now. It's the little townland. It's about 1.5 miles outside Ballycastle. And Rachel was living in Australia and had sent her father to our event.
Yeah.
And to cut a long story short, the partnership then enabled Rachel to come home. She's a very young entrepreneur, very driven, great work ethic, and she's really making that site a success. So that was it was great for the family, but it was also great for us to help facilitate Rachel's kind of vision to create a microtourism business.
So that was great that you got that opportunity to do that, and great that the council helped matchmake, if you like, with the landowners.
Well, it was, indirectly, but look, our business in a nutshell is we're building a 500-bed hotel, and we're distributing them in batches of 6, 7 and 8s across Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland at the minute. We've got a few lined up in England as well. So what we do is we directly invest in microtourism partnerships. So for the likes of Glenarm, there's 9 pods in Glenarm. I mean, Glenarm Estate have invested a pretty sum for all of the groundworks and infrastructure. And we have invested, our pods are 44 to 50,000 pounds each. So there's 9 of them there. That's a very hefty investment from Further Space.
Is that the cost? Wow.
That's the cost of one of the pods. They're like a little tiny home.
Yeah.
They're built to current building regulations, and they're like a home from home. They're made of aluminium. You've got a full-size bed that folds up into a wall. You have a little living space, and that's all centred around an interrupted, beautiful window looking out over the water. And then you've got a fully plumbed toilet, shower, and then on the left-hand side you've got bunk beds for the kids and a little kitchenette then if you want to cook or have lunch. And then, obviously, when the weather's great, you can go outside and barbecue.
Those 2 days? No, I'm only
Yeah. Well, the last couple of years...
I know, it's been great, actually.
It has been great. And then I guess one of the things that we are getting better at is when the weather's not so great, how do we then cater for, you're not being able to barbecue when it's raining.
And?
So, well, we're with our new pod partners, Paragon, who are manufacturing our pods now. We're in the process of tweaking the pod design to maybe make it a little bit bigger and put a bit more utensils in there to allow people to maybe cook a hot meal rather than just microwaving something.
Yeah,
but that's all coming from customer feedback.
Well, listen, you've absolutely got to listen, don't you? So you're not just here in Northern Ireland, as we've said already. Scotland, Republic of Ireland, talked about England eventually. How did you make those breaks?
Well, one thing we're very good at, one thing I believe we're very good at is marketing.
Yeah. Check out the website, by the way, and do follow the social media. You will want to book straight away.
So, Further Space as a brand is all about disconnecting from the day-to-day, getting access to places that you would never get access to if it wasn't for our landowner network. I described Hillhead Farm just before the podcast. You literally, at certain times of the year...
Let's just tell everybody exactly what you said to me, because that's the one I want to sign up to.
Well, Hillhead Farm's in Dumfries and Galloway, Scotland. It's literally looking over the Nithsdale Valley. And at certain times of the year, you wake up above the clouds. You must have maybe a 200-degree panoramic view. And it's quite intimate. There's only 3 pods there. And that's part of a larger diversification project for that particular farm. So we've also got Cardress Estate in Scotland. You wake up in the morning and you're looking straight at Ben Lomond, right over the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park. It's incredible. We've just opened 2 new sites in the Republic of Ireland over the last 6 months. So Forth Mountain in County Wexford, And it's one of our top performing sites.
Right.
Fourth Mountain actually, James looks after a lot of horses, so people can actually bring their horse. And then there's 25 miles worth of horse trails with no risk of cars or cyclists or anything like that.
Oh,
And
I have a friend I must tell exactly about that. She's horse mad.
Well, I mean,
I don't have a horse, so.
well, I mean, and I think maybe 5 minutes from that site you've got a beach, and
sounds
James will kind of help with the putting the horses out into the fields and stuff, and there is places where you can keep your horse inside or outside.
But really, as you say, you are getting access to places that are really off the beaten track and not on the tourist trail.
Absolutely. The latest one is Belmullet in County Mayo, and you're looking straight out towards Carn Golf Club, which I believe is one of the best golf clubs in Europe, and the Atlantic Ocean. Oh. And it only opened there just before Christmas. So these places are special. Our landowners are really special because I believe people who open their own business, they're cut from a certain cloth. And our job is to find those young rural entrepreneurs that as I said earlier, have the right work ethic and just kind of aren't afraid of hard work.
You said young.
Well, the majority of our landowners are young. Like, we will look at everybody, but we're entering into 10, 15-year agreements. And
so this is really about the partnerships and the collaboration. This
absolutely.
is really about the relationships
Yeah.
and the good that can come out of them. And it only works if you've got the right partnerships.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Now, what we've done subsequent to our partnerships are quite successful. Some of our partnerships perform better than others. And then you take them.
That's life, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then you take the macroeconomic, environmental, health issues that we've all had to deal with, and you put them in the big melting pot. But what we've done is we've introduced 2 new business models above the partnership model. We've got a franchise model that allows people access to the brand and the pod, but maybe takes a bit more of the responsibility themselves.
Okay.
And then we've got a managed site model where Further Space will offer you a land rent for your land, and we'll manage 100% of it.
This podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. Goodness, so you've really thought of everything in every way to help people, because some people will want complete control and others will say, help, I don't know what to do here.
And then the tertiary there, Sarah, is people who just want a passive income. There's a beautiful piece of land,
yes.
You take on all of the risk and they sit
make
back.
Money.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gosh, you've thought of everything.
Well, we've thought of everything. we still need to execute on those second 2 models, but we've got 3 or 4 projects lined up over the next couple of months.
And how do you reach these landowners, and how do you get out there, and how do you stop it growing? Well, I don't know. You want to go, you've already talked about your growth plans. You do want to grow big, but this is a bit of an elite club then that people will want to be part of?
Anybody can apply to be a Further Space partner, or to be a franchisee, or for Further Space to take on their site. I've lost count the amount of applications we've had, 600 or 700, and we're very selective. We're probably more selective now than we've ever been. We've maybe made decisions in the past because we're a startup. We have to make those decisions. But now, we're very prescriptive in what we want. We know what great looks like. We're not afraid to say no. And at the end of the day, it's a partnership. So if the partnership is not performing, not only does it hurt our landlord or landowner, it hurts us as well.
Yeah.
So, and we're deploying a lot of capital. Both direct and indirect capital into these partnerships there.
And have you had to walk away?
We've ended one partnership in Northern Ireland amicably.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's just
tough,
not.
I'm sure.
It is tough, but it's an occupational hazard, and our job is to make sure that we never have to do that again.
Okay.
So, and I guess what I'm saying is that we're in full control of that to a certain point. I mean, no, there are like life can get in the way, but nothing stops us sitting down in front of somebody and having a good conversation about life.
Glamping has become so popular, as I said at the start, but how does your business compare to competitors? Is there anything else the same out there?
Most of our competitors are independent operators. So let's say you had a site and you opened up 6 or 7 pods. You would take 100% of that risk on. And your marketing spend is a percentage of your revenues, to keep it simple. So you're relying heavily on online travel agents like Airbnb and Booking.com.
Okay.
And they attract high, they take a big cut. They can take anything up to 25%.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely. Because I guess you're competing against other accommodation providers in the area. And if you want to rank at the top, you might
got to
need
pay
give
for it.
Exactly. One thing, we made a very big decision early on in this business that we would not be a slave to online travel agents. So about 75 to 80% of our bookings are direct. They come through our website and we don't pay the percentage to the online travel agents. So if you partner with Further Space, you're not only sharing the risk, but you also have a company that has a marketing team, a customer services and revenue management team. We have in-house architects. We have a finance team. And effectively, we do most of the business administration, as well as acquiring the customer. And bearing in mind, 75% of those customers are direct. So we're not having to give a lot of our revenue away to the online travel agents. If you do this yourself, then you're taking on 100% of the risk. And you do have to rely on Airbnb and Booking.com. Now, those models work, and they work beautifully. But I guess what we're trying to do is cater for that niche in the market that might not have the business acumen, but they have the hosting skills and the drive, and they want to learn, or they might not have the resources to do it, and we can step in and help there as well.
How has InvestNI assisted you?
InvestNI have helped in a number of ways. In the early days of pod design, Sarah, we availed of R&D funding, research and development. We've also had support from employment. As our employment numbers increase, they've supported employment and marketing spends. More recently, they've helped with skill advancement grants. So for the likes of myself and some of the team who go through certain courses I'm always learning. I want to learn, and they'll help facilitate because we're at that kind of scaling point. And then they're also, Investor in Northern Ireland are also a shareholder of the business through their private equity arm. We're Invest and I have actually been incredible to the support of the business, and we're very grateful for that.
And I'm wondering, tourism NI and things like that, because everything that you do is so visual and geared towards the tourist market, and I suppose providing, well, let's talk costs. I was going to say a more affordable option for some people. What does it cost to stay in one of the pods, or does that vary depending on the location?
It varies depending on the location and the time of year. So I guess, during the summer, you'll spend 180, 190 pounds a night.
So this is high-end luxury.
It is.
You're competing with the big
And during the winter,
hotels.
You'll pay about 120 to 130. And we're getting that. And we're maintaining, across the whole portfolio at the minute, 55, 60% occupancy. And that takes into consideration the environment that we're operating in at the minute.
So do you know tonight how many of your pods are booked?
I know exactly how many nights we took over the last 24 hours, how that's distributed across the next 12 months, and actually what locations they're sitting at. And then what we have is we adapt real time. So we have a revenue manager in the business that just monitors our business on the books daily. And if there's sites that maybe aren't getting the pickup that we need, we'll divert marketing spend, digital spend real time, and we'll pull that up a bit.
It's just such a brilliant, unique offering. It really is. And, if there's anybody listening to this now that might have a little bit of land and thinking, do you know what, I was going to put a couple of pods up there myself, but He sounds like the boy I need to talk to. You would be urging them to get in touch?
Absolutely. Now, what I would say is I would caveat that a little bit. I mean, Northern Ireland is almost closed for business.
Okay.
I mean, what we don't want to be doing is
Oversaturating it.
Exactly, and diluting our offering. Our main focus at the minute is Ireland and Scotland. Those are our two growth markets. For example, we've got pods going to the Isle of Mull at the end of February.
Oh, beautiful.
Overlooking the sea.
And do you have to go to all of these places to check them out, David?
I used to.
Do you need any help?
Well, I can. Well, we can talk about that afterwards, of course. But the Isle of Mull in Scotland, overlooking the sea. We've got Forty Estate in Perthshire. It's absolutely beautiful. Like there's a Munro on that estate. In the Republic of Ireland, we've got Dingle and Killarney coming online, hopefully towards the end of this year, to name a few. And then there's opportunities in Devon and Cornwall. Wales. I mean, it's
endless.
It is, and I think. I'm a big believer in. There's a book that I read in the early stages of my career. It was Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And you have to find your why. Our why at the minute is like we want to find people that want to start something amazing, and we want guests to stay somewhere amazing, and we believe amazing should be open to everyone. And what we're doing is we're playing into the part of the brain where people make decisions subliminally. And our job is to get up that kind of innovation curve. We need to get about 18% of the market up that innovation curve. And once we do that, then we hit that saturation point, and then the floodgates technically should open. But we're through the early adopter phase, and we're just getting up that bell curve at the minute.
And just even seeing your face light up when you think about your why, it's sometimes important to keep going back to it all the time, isn't it? Just keep checking in with your
all the
why.
time, all the time.
On the days that aren't so good, you
Absolutely.
can see the passion for what you're doing. And isn't it a good job you left what you did before? Isn't it a good job that didn't work out?
Well, look, I've no regrets. Like life. You chart your path, you make decisions. I'm here today because of all the decisions that I've made in the past. Last May we actually published our vivid vision for the future. By the end of 2025, we'll have 500 pods on the ground. We're going to be, I think at that stage, we'll be looking after 300, 400,000 people a year, and we'll be putting about 25 to 30 million directly into rural economies. For example, like Glenarm, that money goes into Glenarm. It doesn't go back to towns and cities. It stays there.
That's brilliant.
And by partnering with Further Space, that is the direct impact. And that's kind of...
You're improving communities, your livelihoods.
I believe so.
Yeah. Wow. Goodness, what a great business and something to be super proud of. Not without its challenges, I'm sure, at times. But tell me about a typical glamper. Is there such a thing? Do you have serial glampers, or do you have one-off glampers, or what's repeat business like?
Repeat business is getting better. I guess during the pandemic, we took a bit of the market that may not have considered glamping, because they maybe had some kind of unconscious bias of what glamping was, or maybe a conscious bias of what glamping was.
I've never glamped. I'll have to.
So glamping ranges from glorified garden sheds right up to Further Space pods and beyond. And
but you're up there. That's where I need to be.
Yeah, and we're going to be coming out with different versions of our pods very soon. But our glampers range from 22 right up to 65, 70. Couples, families, and we can cater right across the board. We could be doing better in getting maybe the older demographic in. We have been very, if you look at our Instagram in the past, we've been very kind of focused to that kind of young family. So there's lots of the market that we're still learning and still exploring, but it's an opportunity for people to experience nature, disconnect.
And what about accessibility? Was making sure that it's accessible to all?
Well, actually, that's a very good point. Part of this partnership with Paragon will be to then look at our accessible pods. Our portfolio at the minute, just due to where we are in our business life cycle, we have 58 pods on the ground. We would say that we'll have maybe one pod on every site into 2024 will be an accessible pod, but that needs to be designed. It needs to be designed in the right way with the right input before we can successfully put that out on the ground. But that's definitely part of the vision.
We had a previous guest in here earlier today, Francesca Morelli, who was talking all about influencers. I mean, do you use that sort of idea? Have you got influencers on board? And if you're trying to promote accessibility, would it be a good idea to get somebody who could try that out for you?
Well, I mean, yes, we do use influencers, but I mean, our production partners are a company called Paragon, but their sister company is a company called Seating Matters, and Seating Matters are based in Limavady, and they specialise in chairs for people with pressure injuries, and they're such an inspirational business, and we do see the partnership with Paragon and the input from Seating Matters will play a massive part in actually making sure that the pods of the future will cater for everybody.
You've mentioned Paragon a few times. Why did you partner with Paragon? Who are they, for those that don't know?
Well, we decided early last year that we were going to stop producing pods ourselves, and I've just come through a program called ScaleX, and that's where I met the three Tierney brothers who run Seating Matters, and partnerships was a really big part of that program about how you accelerate your business. And finding the right partners that share your values, your vision, and they have purpose is so important. And that was the second piece of luck in this business, because that was over a coffee in the Waterfront Hall. I shared with Ryan that we were looking for a production partner, and then we changed the subject. And then later on that evening over dinner, he goes, "David, I'd like to talk to you about that." And I think 3.5 months later, we signed a partnership agreement.
Wow.
So they go into full production on the 1st of April. I was up at their factory with the team yesterday, and they've just finished they've almost finished their first pod. I put that up on LinkedIn earlier. So it was quite an emotional moment, actually, because I can see the power of that partnership going beyond just manufacturing our pod. And they're on their own vision journey at the minute. And being in that kind of, there's a term used, a rising tide raises all ships. So by surrounding yourself with people who have values, vision and purpose, coming back to the question about fear, I don't think this business will fail because we've got so many great people around us who are all shared in that purpose of pushing this business forward. So.
And that ScaleX program, do you want to give that a plug or a mention to anybody else who's going, what is he talking about?
Well, it's a program designed to prepare businesses for scale. My last workshop there was in just before Christmas. It's run by Brenda McGregor and Claire Colvin, who are incredible individuals, and it's really changed my life, actually.
That's quite a big statement.
No, but I mean that, and the people who know me, both personally and professionally, will know how much it has, and it just gives you a framework. It gives you tools to deal with if you're having a bad day, you read your vision. It's literally a printed document. If you're having to have tough conversations, they teach you how to breathe and really just calm yourself down. If it's a recruitment process, there's a framework around recruitment. There's a framework around partnerships, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met our future production partners, and that's testament. So you have all of these people in the same room who have the same ambitions as you do. Like on day one, the imposter syndrome was off the chart, but now I am feeling a lot more comfortable. With my own abilities, knowing that we've got a group of people there that a network, and your network's your worth.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, David, I love the vision. I love what you're doing, and I wish you every success for the future. The final question, which I know you've mentioned already right at the start, it is that the purpose question. So the purpose of this podcast is to inspire existing business owners and ambitious entrepreneurs to grow their business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as your own at Further Space. So what advice would you give to people who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
There is so much support out there. You just need to ask for it. And I put this out there. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I would encourage, if people want to be pointed in the right direction, to connect with me and ask the question. Don't be afraid to fail a few times. As I said earlier on, it's those setbacks, which is where you learn everything. Build a great group of people around you. Business is all about people, and just keep your ego on the floor. Just got to suppress it and maintain that open mind all the time.
David Maxwell, co-founder and COO of Further Space, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the Public Eye podcast. And watch this space going forward. Do check out the website and see all the beautiful places that you could perhaps have a holiday in future. Thanks so much, folks, for tuning in, and join me very soon for another fantastic episode of the Public Eye podcast. This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team, using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.